This is the December meeting of the Project Wildfire Steering Committee. As any of you that have participated in years past might remember, we usually take December and try to look back on where we've been, what we've accomplished, with the thought of also looking forward to the coming year, and what we might be putting on our to-do list for 2021. So, of course, it may go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. A lot of our accomplishments will have the qualifier of impacted by COVID. So I think we still did accomplish quite a bit, but those plans that we set out to accomplish with our work plan in January of 2020 obviously did evolve over the year in light of some of the restrictions of COVID and the fact that a lot of our efforts, of course, are collaborative in nature and had to switch to going online, but still continued on. So so Boone is going to give us an overview of our program of work. You may remember we have a few pages of a program of work that we basically review with the steering committee in January. He's going to send that out by email. We're not going to try to go through every single one with you today, but he's pulled out some highlights and is going to run through a presentation of some of the highlights of the accomplishments from that program of work for 2020. And then, of course, we'll save time at the end for any updates or information that you all might have to share with the larger group as well. So that's our agenda for today. One other thing before I turn it over to Boone, or a couple other things that I'd like you to be thinking about as we go through our accomplishments for the year. One is we usually do have a call for a small subcommittee to meet with Boone and I sometime between now and our January meeting, and that's to in a little bit more detail talk about what our 2021 program of work might look like, and then we bring that back to the January meeting. So we'll have a call for people to volunteer for that. That'll be probably a couple hours of your time if you're thinking about that. Of course, we'll just meet virtually again sometime between now and our January meeting to just get your input on our 2021 work plan. So we'll be asking for a couple volunteers. We usually like to have 3 to 5 folks help us with that. And then it's always useful to hear from you if you have ideas for topics for 2021 too. So meeting topics, we kind of have a running list we've been working on from input that you all provided us at the start of 2020. And it's always good to keep a nice refreshed list. So if you all have anything to share on that, we'll be asking for that towards the end of the meeting as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Boone for the 2020 program work review.
Okay, so I think I got myself successfully unmuted there. So like Ed said, just to frame this up, we're going to be covering the highlights from our program of work for Project Wildfire. And that's all tied back to our strategic objectives as well, but we'll touch on that in a little bit as we go through today. So, I had this scrolling by as we were kind of starting the meeting earlier, but just kind of to frame us up where we're headed and kind of reminding ourselves what Project Wildfire is all about and kind of, what our mission is. The mission is to prevent deaths, injuries, property loss, and environmental damage resulting from wildfires in Deschutes County. And then I'm not going to read all of that, but you can see the ways that we achieve our mission. So give everybody just a couple of seconds to take a look at that. So we're going to talk about the highlights of what we did over this last year to kind of reach those goals. So as Ed said, right, interesting year to say the least, right? So COVID really forced our hand into doing a lot of different things outside the ordinary. And right, it's not like it's only happened to Project Wildfire. That's all of our lives. And I'm sure all of us are tired of hearing about COVID and how it's impacted us and our work. But just to highlight things in the ways that it did impact us, we changed up our steering committee meetings. I mean, here we are doing Zoom right now, but we've, in some ways, I think that's kind of helped us out. We've been able to record our videos, been able to put those on the web. And I feel like we've actually probably actually reached out to kind of a broader group by being able to have those recordings and those meetings. Our fire season, just kind of thinking about our year in review, our fire season here locally was pretty light. And in Central Oregon, I need to qualify that. In Central Oregon, we didn't have the large fire on the landscape that we normally have, like a Millie or something like that. But we did still have several fires that threatened our communities. Thinking about, the Fry Rear fire, we had some good success stories like the Roslyn Road fire, where it was right next to a community, but luckily, there's been a lot of fuels treatment, a lot of work done, and it was easily caught. And then the other part of it is it was heavy fire season elsewhere in the state. And usually, we always talk about the fire that was on our landscape locally, and then we talk about, and I think I made a joke of this the other day, but we try to ride that wave of the momentum of the folks that see the fire on the landscape and try to grab a hold of the communities that become interested in defensible space or fire-wise. And this year with the fires across the state, at times it felt like there was more of a tsunami than just a wave, because there was a lot of interest. A lot of folks called wanting assessments done around their homes, and also a lot of communities interested in fire-wise. Communities that we'd worked with in the past that kind of dropped off the table, have kind of rekindled and become interested in what kind of programs we have out there. And then there's the downside of things, right? The COVID really impacted us for a lot of the events and the things that we were hoping to get done. So some of the things that Ed was talking about that we had to scale back, the Fire Ready Bend, where we were planning to work out a COCC and with quite a few partners, and actually have a booth set up and have people walk through, those one-on-one relations had to be canceled. So we put that on hold. We also had the Aubrey Butte Neighborhood Association and the Century West Neighborhood Association presentations. Those are pretty simple presentations where we talk about our program, talk about defensible space, talk about everything wildland fire, from what's being planned on the Forest Service side of things all the way down to what we're doing for defensible space around our homes and building materials. But we were unable to hold those, and those usually reach like 10 to 15 neighborhoods each with those two meetings. And then we also didn't attend our WUI conference, or it was an altered conference anyway, where usually we go to those and it's in person, and we get to share ideas and things about how we do our business working in the WUI, how we reach out to people, the barriers that we face and how we overcome those, but we were unable to do that. And then another one that I think everybody looks forward to is our annual barbecue, which unfortunately we had to cancel that one. Anyway, I was bummed that we canceled that one. I thought that was going to be a good one, but that'd be right in the face of all the precautions that we were doing, so we weren't able to do that one either. And this is just a short list. There are a lot of other gatherings and functions that we were hoping to do, and small things that were kind of being planned. There was some outreach with some schools that we were hoping to do, some of those burn to learn type of functions, but we had to cancel those. So the list goes on for quite a while there. So today, what I was hoping to do is just kind of cover the highlights from the year of what we were able to accomplish, and kind of, if you will, the silver lining of what we were able to get done. So we're going to talk about our steering committee changes, our fire free, the classes that we held, the home mitigation strategy classes, our Firewise communities, where we're at with those, the workshops that we held, the CWPP revisions, and then some of the grants that we worked on. So we had new committee members, and we were just bringing those guys on board. So we had 6 new members: Brandon Fogelman, Bob Poley, Nick Ainen, Ken Kemna, Jessica LaBerge, and Oliver Tatum. As we're bringing those guys on, right, we found ourselves here over and over and over again, right? Hopefully you guys find the humor in that, but it was just Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. And as we worked on a lot of our projects, Ed and I were talking about this over the last day or two as we're putting together the presentation. And as I was looking through photos, I found myself chuckling. I'm like, I have no photos because everything was through Zoom. And then, of course, I ended up just grabbing some screenshots of Zoom meetings, but that's where we were. But our steering committee, right, we plugged at those 6 holes, and then this year we've found ourselves with only a few vacancies. And talking it through with Ed, just because we don't have some of these representatives per se, like always attending our meetings, we haven't recruited too many folks, and it's been a kind of a down year for keeping people on here. We decided to not solicit for those last few vacant spots. But for the most part, we're doing pretty well. We have a pretty full, of the 27 potential slots, we have quite a few of them filled. And actually, what I wanted to do real quick, if I can do this without too much problem, right, I wanted to kind of show you where you can find some of that stuff online. Since we're going through this, it'd be kind of a nice refresher too to see where we're at. So if you're curious of our steering committee, you can come right here to the About on our Project Wildfire webpage. I'll take you right into the steering committee, a short blurb, and then our list of folks that we have here. And then also with everything that we've done for 2020, underneath the About, you can find the 2020 steering committee. And you can find our strategic objectives that tie directly to our work plan for the year. But also you can find all of the recordings and our notes from this year all the way up to date with everything that we saw. So if there's any meetings that we had that we talked about something that you're interested in and you missed, they're there. I'd have to admit they're not edge of the seat excitement, but they're good talks with a lot of good content. They're always enjoyable. Okay, and then back to the slide here. So that was our steering committee. So Fire Free. Fire Free was interesting this year. We had, COVID was just kind of setting in as we were starting to print flyers and really starting to push the outreach with our press releases and getting ready to really get the momentum going. And then COVID rolled right out. And we went from planning to do typical 2 weekends with 1 week in between at Not Landfill, and then 2 weekends at the transfer sites. That's our normal plan. We'd change that to running it all the way from the 9th through the 24th at Not Landfill and all the sites. And part of that was, there were kind of 2 pieces of why we're looking at that, probably more than that I'm aware of, but the 2 bigger ones that stood out to me was the landfill and all the sites have been busy from all the way through April as everybody was bringing debris into the landfill. So we were already pushing the limits. The landfill was already, the chute solid waste was already taking COVID precautions in place. So it wasn't a big change for them in that regard. And then also thinking about a couple of weekends that were weekends that we're going to be pushing a bunch of more folks into the landfill. The decision was made to extend those dates out, hoping to kind of flatten that curve. But as the numbers kind of showed, right, we pretty much doubled the amount of cubic yards that came in, which was pretty awesome. But we also did have a lot more days, but it was a steady flow. That was a steady flow before Fire Free and then all the way through Fire Free of folks coming in. So very successful year in that regard. I think that would probably be the best or the biggest silver lining to all of the COVID is that a lot of defensible space got done around people's homes, or at least a lot of debris was brought in, implying that defensible space is done. For our fall half price event, and as a reminder, that fall event was sponsored by Deschutes Recycling. It's not put on by the county per se. We definitely promote it and do what we can to help them out. But the fall event and not landfill, brought in pretty much the average of what has been brought in every year. It's actually a slight tick down from average for this year, but not by much. And then lots of partners, right? Even though the engagement was a little bit less and there was less face-to-face interactions, we still maintained and carried through all of our partners that we've been working with in years previous. You know, from all the fire departments to the road department, to everybody that was out there. And I guess there's two things I want to kind of say about all that too, before I forget and move off of Fire Free. But one is our West Side site. We still continue to use that West Side site, which was awesome, and we hope to use that again this year going into 2021. From the talks of last year, there's no reason we won't be able to, but we'll definitely be working towards that again this year as we look at Fire Free again. And then the other one is volunteers. Last year, volunteers, we had a few people volunteer, and we did allow people to do that if they were comfortable with it, and we just needed to make sure that they're maintaining their COVID precautions, but there wasn't a big push on it. And then this year, you know, as we kind of head down that road again, thinking about volunteers and then the timing of Fire Free, and we'll talk more about it at our next meeting, but we're hoping to keep some extended dates for Fire Free and keep that participation up. And I hope that we can also start thinking about bringing back in our volunteers and continue to maintain this list of folks that are helping us out with everything. So something to think about. Classes that we did. So early January last year, before COVID, we had our in-person classes at COCC that we did with Allison Green and Cohesive Strategy there, where we were putting them on over at COCC. Great classes, two of them back to back. I think it was a Thursday, Friday, if I remember right. And then as COVID kind of struck, it was happening right when we were getting ready to put those classes on, and we had to cancel them pretty much last minute. And then we took a hard look at them and then brought them back out as a virtual class. And then did those in April again on a Thursday, Friday. But they were, in my opinion, very successful, right? I was afraid that as we went to virtual, people weren't going to want to participate, but we were actually able to kind of trim a few things off of the classes and then still be able to get the content out. So it was quite a success in my mind. And then the other part of this is that this was probably, or not just probably, this was one of our first attempts at turning something that was planned to be in person into virtual. So it was a bit of a pilot for us as we were kind of figuring out Zoom, what we could and couldn't do on Zoom, creating breakout rooms, how to kind of be able to make an interactive class versus some kind of a lecture series. So those were pretty successful. Our Firewise communities. This was an interesting one this year. There was a few obstacles to navigate, right? We at first definitely want to say welcome to all the communities that we had, right? Mountain High, Boonesboro, Windermere, and Trout Creek Village. And I feel like that was no small feat this year. I think that's pretty close to what we usually get, is about 4 or 5 communities. But you know, we really had to navigate how we were going to be able to walk around out there, still get participation from the communities, and still maintain our social distancing. You know, and as I look at these slides right now, one of the things that kind of dawns on me is I didn't put any in with us actually wearing masks. I just put in the ones on High Meadow. Oh, yes, I see. I got a note for High Meadow, but High Meadow hasn't turned in their action plan, but they have an assessment. But anyway, they, yeah, a lot of interactions with folks out there maintaining our social distancing. But when COVID first rolled out, there was a lot of assessments that got put on the back burner that, you know, it's just kind of tough to navigate. And once we kind of figured it out, then it was like we really turned on the gas to it. And I had Ariel, who was just mentioning High Meadow there, had her working pretty hard with me, making all the appointments and then also putting together the assessments. So As we work through the year, coming at the end of the year, some of these assessments are a little older, but we have 10 communities with assessments right now. So they're somewhere in the process of becoming FireWise, with 4 more that are in process as well. So we've basically got 14 more communities lined up to kind of march through FireWise over the next couple of years here. Hopefully we get most of those through next year. And several of those assessments were done in years past, and for whatever reasons, those communities kind of fell off the back burner, not on our part, but on their part of stopping the process. But a lot of those have come forward again this year, revisited their FireWise assessment, talked about what it really means, and then kind of what they can do to continue the process. So a lot of activity kind of in the background as far as emails back and forth, sending out resources, and then keeping people up to date and moving forward. Pretty excited to see how many people are actually taking action, because it's cool to see a community change, and then also actually build that community feel throughout their neighborhood with all their neighbors. Okay, so yeah, okay, and then our list of communities, it's not a whole lot. When you look at it, it doesn't look longer than years past. Maybe I shouldn't bring up that point. It doesn't look longer, but the thing that you would notice if you compared them is a lot of these communities have changed from pending to actually having years behind them, which is nice. It's grown by a couple of folks and decreased the number that say pending. Cool to see. The other piece, this was another success story in my mind as far as what came out of this last year with COVID. But we had our FireWise workshop, and we'd been planning this from early on, well before I took the position. And the plan was originally to host a day where we'd be able to pull communities together, those that are already FireWise, along with those interested in being FireWise, pull them all together to kind of talk and share basically these 3 things: our FireWise process, how we're doing outreach, planning projects in the community. And we were hoping to do some kind of a half full day kind of thing, workshop, if you will, where we'd be able to pull people in and we do some kind of round robin, working around the room in small groups, and then talk about these different issues and kind of share ideas between one another. And what we ended up finding was, since we couldn't do this in person, we decided to do them all through Zoom, and we broke them into 3 parts, and each one, I think we ended up doing a couple hours each. But we did break these up, and using our virtual meetings, we got quite a bit of participation. I think we probably ended up in the end, because there was 3 of them individually, we probably ended up with more people participating in that manner than we would have if we were doing it in person. Actually, so I've got that on there, but I also thought it would be worthwhile to take a look at where that is. So from the home screen of Project Wildfire, if you're interested in where to find that stuff, you can go into the resources, and you have your FireWise USA. And on this page, I kind of did some updating on it, and it still needs more updating, but we have a lot of the resources that are available to our communities out there right now. Anything from how to do the process to some of the defensible space to funding projects through grants. And then we also have a link to the workshops, and you can find that link up here as well. But the 3-part workshop, so you can watch the recordings. The unfortunate part is if you watch the recordings, you won't get to see the breakout sessions where we did a lot of the one-on-one talking between the communities and sharing ideas back and forth. But you'll get to see kind of the premise of it. We had a lot of good speakers that we had come. The state representative, Jenna, she was there for some of it, but we moved through quite a few good speakers. And all those resources are there, right? Everything that you want to look at. And if you end up with any questions, if you find yourself here and you don't see what you're looking for, let me know. It's a good resource. Now it's our FireWise workshops. I guess the other part that I'd want to mention too is that the workshops were funded through the Fire Adapted Communities Network. And with that funding comes kind of a work plan that we lay out. And we have another work plan this next year, and we'll talk about that at our next meeting of what we're planning with that work plan. CWPP updates. As a reminder, we have 7 of them across the county, and they're on a 5-year rotation to be revised. So there were 2 of them being revised this last year, Lapine and Sun River. Lapine is completely done at this point, signed and being implemented. And then Sun River, I chuckle to myself at this point. We were pretty ambitious. We started off like, oh, we can do this in 3 or 4 meetings. I laid out kind of a plan, talked with all of our partners, and said, yeah, sounds good. And then as COVID was happening, we're trying to figure out how to transition to more of a virtual type of meeting. And then people were working from home, and all of that was a lot of unknown. And anyway, I felt like I was maybe over ambitious, and I was thinking that I would be done sometime in April. And then here we are in December, and I think we're going for signatures on it this week, which is a good thing. So we are getting it completed this year. So Lapine is finished up, and then Sun River is in process getting signatures this week. And we'll get that posted to the webpage as well, which, you know, since I'm doing it, I may as well stick with the theme here. On the Project Wildfire webpage, if you're interested in where those live, you can navigate right here, Community Wildfire Protection Plans. And then you can scroll down and it tells you a little bit about them. And then as you get down to the bottom, you can find all those plans. Actually, I see this as a final draft that needs to be changed. But all of our CWPPs are here if you want to take a look at them. And then another, is this working? There we go. And then the grants that we had this year. So we've got we continue to have funding in the Joint Chiefs, which covers a large portion of southern Deschutes County. And, you know, a lot of that stuff was put in the back burner as we talked about community kind of projects and how we're going to be able to do that with COVID. It kind of slowed us down in a lot of that process of figuring out what we were going to do, what we're able to do with some of those funds. But Joint Chiefs, we got the Forest View Estates, which is a relatively new community for us to be working with, which is a good thing to expand out into new communities. And then Deschutes River Rec Home Sites number 6 is also doing grant work down there. And they're actually on our list of communities that just finished up with an assessment and are in process right now. So pretty stoked to see that they're doing some work and head down the road of FireWise and becoming involved that way. And then we also had the discretionary grants for FireWise sites. So there was $40,000 that was given to us to help promote our FireWise community site, our FireWise sites. And those projects are going forward. So I guess a couple of things just thinking about those grants, because I think there's probably several folks on here that applied for those that either did get one or did not get them, but they're heavily, you know, when we score those out, we heavily weight them towards projects that are going to get a lot of participation from all of the neighbors within the community, and then also that are focused on that defensible space. Because, you know, as I'm always preaching to everybody, it's that last 100 foot around your home. You know, research shows that that's the most important piece of your home survivability, whether it's no matter what the forest looks like around it. We want to make sure we have our home ignition zones. So these communities, or these grants, were really focused on those communities and in that home ignition zone and defensible space immediately around the homes. But pretty awesome. We get a lot of work out of this, and it also helps with getting a lot of these communities FireWise recognized, as a lot of them are still in process, and this counts towards some of their days of their FireWise event. And that was my last slide. I don't know if I ran through that fast or not. I felt like I talked pretty quick there several times. I guess I'd have to say it wasn't probably not the biggest list is what we usually have out there, but there was a lot of highlights that came out of this last year that I actually felt like in the end it helped us out quite a bit, streamline some processes. I think that the ability to kind of navigate and learn how to use Zoom meetings is a pretty big one, even though we enjoy our face-to-face, and I hope that we do get back to that for our meetings. But there are a lot of things that we're able to save a lot of time to pop onto real quick, collaborate together with a lot of our partners and get some work done. So that's been a real good plus to it. And then the other one that I don't think we'll see year after year is Fire Free. The participation this last year was pretty awesome. So with that, is there any questions from folks with kind of thinking about some of the projects or anything that I missed that you're curious of? I didn't mention on my chat box here.
This is Commissioner DeVone. I'd like to just step in and say great job during a COVID year. One of the thoughts is we have people working from home, right? So that's where we're at. And that may be a trend that we're going to see for quite a while now. The future community meetings that are going to be helping people get out of their house, get to know their neighbors. There's neighborhood associations have annual meetings, and this is where we can expand and plan on making sure this is always an agenda item in a community meeting. Just even if it's not a full Firewise community, always working towards it. Neighborhood relationships. We've got people buying and selling homes, changing the dynamics of who's living where right now. And this is going to be the opportunity, having a strong Project Wildfire. We have a long history of this, and knowing that there's going to be a huge opportunity for all of us to welcome the neighbors in, point out what defensible space looks like, help with the cleanup. We live in different areas. Some more dense urban areas really need to transport some of those needles and branches to the landfill. Other people just need to have a nice cleanup fire out in their backyard. Could be, just an effort, and it's very seasonal. Right in the last few weeks has been the time to burn, and the spring will be the time to burn. Maybe people have fires ready to go also. We're always looking for those success stories. If we have an ignition somewhere in the county, if it doesn't become a big event, that's a success story. And we live in that dry forested area. So we should all be celebrating. It's kind of that awkward, quiet time. We're on a Zoom meeting, but every neighborhood association that brings this topic up is a success story. So I want to thank everybody for joining us and the efforts of our staff and all the partners that just keep this in the forefront of our minds. Because think about how valuable it is to know we're wildfire prepared. Instead of, oh no, what do I do? We're giving people the tools, and that's the big picture. So I want to thank everybody for being here also.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else have anything they want to follow up on Boone's presentation, or I would, again, as I alluded to at the beginning, put out a call for folks just looking for a small group to meet with Boone and I sometime probably the first week or two of January. We'll find a date once we know a few people, but if you're interested in sitting down and kind of digging into our 2021 program of work, you can either let me know by coming off mute or dropping something in the chat box, or you can follow up with us by email after the meeting as well. So the other thing I would ask is if you do have any ideas for 2021 presentations. Like I said, we have a few on our list still that we'll be kind of working on as we move through the year. But if you have others, other presentations that would be valuable to this group, please let us know that as well. And again, if you want to just come off the mute or put something in the chat box, or send it to Boone or I, or give us a call, we'll add it to our list. So I'll just pause real quick.
While we're while we're paused, Ed, I just wanted to share one thing, kind of follow up with what Commissioner DeBone said. So I feel like it illustrates a good point. It's been on my mind. I know it's something that everybody is familiar with. But what you're seeing right now is the map of Deschutes County and all of the. Hold on one. There we go. Okay, so those are large fires, right? And we can see the graph. I can talk through this for 10 minutes, but I'm not going to. What I wanted to really draw our attention to is we see those large fires, and those are often the fires that are on the landscape and that we see on the news that we talk about. And then the success stories, and you're going to see a subtle change in this that Tony's talking about. If I get this to work, is those little dots are only 10 years. So that's 100 years of large fires. This is 10 years of fires under 10 acres. And those are all little fires. And those aren't, those are scattered all throughout the county. Some are way out in the hinterlands, but lots of those are right around our neighborhoods. Tons of success stories out there that we don't hear about, that we don't see or know that happen unless you're right there at one of those communities. But lots of success stories out there. And then the other piece of that to draw off that is lots of ignition sources that happen out there, whether it's human caused or lightning. And we definitely live in the fire environment. Just thought I'd share that with everyone. And then one other thing, Ed, while I got it, Ed was talking about soliciting for projects. If you're working on something, and even if you don't, you may not realize that you're working on a project that would be a good topic. So if you're working on something and you think, well, maybe it might be good, pass it over to us. It may be something that would be of value to the bigger group. And in the end, just from a personal experience, it's often nice to be able to share your projects with the bigger group because you end up learning from it, and then you end up with more help and your project ends up coming out a little bit better. So.
Okay, well,
can I just get a bit of clarity so that a
Sure.
group that you're trying to bring together in the beginning of January just to decide on what presentations you'll choose for the rest of the year?
Nope, that would be a small part of it, but actually it would be more along the lines of looking at the Project Wildfire program of work. So all the things that we're working on in partnership. What are some emerging opportunities? We have a few things that we do every year. I don't think we'll be taking something like Fire Free off the list, for example, but we do revise that program of work every year. So Boone will, at the end of this meeting, we'll be sending out our kind of summary of 2021 program of work. But then we'll be essentially revisiting that list of things that we're all working on and revising that program of work. And it's a one-time thing. You're not committing to anything more than just that kind of one meeting sitting focused on what we're looking at for 2021.
I can share it if you want to see what it looks like. Just a quick, I got it sitting here. But this is our program of work. And generally, we're, the far right is completed and signed, right? These are all the things that how we achieved our activities. So the meeting would be going over, kind of taking a look at our activities. And it's actually kind of two parts to this. But you see the objectives over here, and that comes from, let me grab it. This should happen pretty quick, I believe. I've got everybody waiting. Okay, so we have strategic objectives instead of looking for where I have that saved on the computer. But we have our strategic objectives, kind of these different letters, and those all coincide with these. And then we want to make sure that our activities that we're doing are fulfilling those objectives. And then we just kind of plan it out over the year when we'll be working on that and how that gets accomplished. And as the year goes on, theoretically, I'm filling this stuff in and summarizing what we did and kind of talking about how we did those things. And then down below is kind of our Ongoing projects, our activities are always there. We don't really touch those, or we didn't last year. I don't expect we will this year either. And I'll send all this stuff out in a follow-up email so everybody can see those pieces. That help?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I mean, you can put my email on the list. I
Great,
can
thanks, Ariel.
see how I can help, how I can.
All right, yeah, and that's good. I mean, I've got a couple other folks that have sent me a chat, and I appreciate that. You know, we're really looking for kind of partnership perspectives and things that you all might be aware of that we can you know, partner in or engage in through this larger group. So that's why we're kind of looking for some folks to volunteer, because you all collectively know a lot more than any of us individually about what opportunities might be out there. So great. We will be following up with y'all, and then we'll bring back some thoughts to our January meeting, and then this larger group will just have a conversation about 2021. So thank you for that. I'm going to take the rest of the time then and just kind of go down the list with a quick roundtable to hear from y'all on any items that you have going on that would be good for the whole group to know about. So I'm going to just start at the top of my list and ask Alex Robertson to start us off, if you have anything, Alex.
I don't have a whole lot. You know, this time of year is hibernating time for firefighters. And so a lot of our folks are getting some well-deserved time off, although we do have some resources still down in South Ops. It's still fire season down there. I've got a couple engines and a dozer that will probably, will rotate crews throughout the winter just to add some help down there as they're still dry and still getting fires in the Southern California area. Other than that, I was hoping DJ was going to be on here just to recognize him. He's retiring at the end of this month. And this would have been his last meeting. I'm not sure. I thought he was going to be here. I'm not sure what happened, but just if you get a chance, send him a note or whatever, since we aren't going to have a party, at least for a little while. But DJ's been a big part of our office organization, and really going to miss him. We are working on filling behind him now that position's on the street, and we should start a paneling process for a list of applicants the first of the year. Also working on filling behind our vacant Conference Unit Aviation Officer position. It's about on the same timeline, so we'll get a couple new folks in here soon. Keep moving forward, but other than that, we're like I said, we're hibernating for a little while, and we'll get started back up planning and hiring and budgeting and all those things, preparing for fire season 21 come January.
Great, thanks, Alex. Bert with Tilcomb Village, anything to share? Okay, I'll keep moving down the list. How about Boyd Turner, Eagle Crest?
Morning, everybody. Don't have anything really urgent. We've our board was pretty, I guess, shocked is probably the best, maybe not shocked, but concerned over the fires in September, and we're putting together a committee to try and address some more specific concerns revolving around treatments and evacuation process for Eagle Crest. And so we're going to try and put together some documents or something some sort of product to share with our homeowners. And that's going to really start in January. So we'll probably be coming to the group here for some ideas and some information, and probably more of a head up for Nathan, who I noticed isn't on the call today, but just wanted to put that out there and let you know that that's something we're looking at doing over here. Other than that, that's all I got. You guys all have a happy holiday.
Thanks, Boyd. How about Ariel? I know there's been a lot of stuff coming out of the OSU Extension Fire Program now that you all have your slots filled. What do you have?
Thank you, Ed. Yep, Ariel Cowan here. I'm part of the new OSU Extension Fire team. And I'm still very much in the process of introducing myself to a lot of folks in my new role. Yes, there's a lot of work going on. A lot of it was statewide response to what was going on the west side, but now we're starting to transition more into developing our program for fire preparedness, education and outreach. We just completed the team by bringing on 2 additional people. And so now we've hired everybody. For me, I'm focused in the central area, and that goes all the way from Warm Springs down to Klamath and Lake counties, and as far as part of Grant County even. So I see that there's a ton of fantastic work that's already being done around Deschutes County, and I want to help wherever I can. That being said, I'll probably be figuring out in the next year what things I sign myself up for that I maybe can't actually commit to. But I will try to do my best with all of that, and really want to learn from a lot of the great work that's already going on here around Deschutes County. Part of that would be, this is part of the process that all extension agents do, that one of the first things they do is a needs assessment, which is essentially developing a survey. And so I'm putting together an email list, and I invite, if anyone is interested on being on this email list, in which I would be letting folks know about some of what the new fire program provides, webinars that we provide, different trainings, but also if you want to participate in the survey, which would be looking at the needs of Deschutes County in terms of fire in general, fire education and outreach. If there's any gaps that you see, that would be good, to get all of your feedback, because that'll help me move forward in knowing where I can plug in. What else? Yeah, so if in the chat, if you want to be added to the email list, let me know. Sorry, I'm hijacking your meeting to ask for emails. The other thing is, I mentioned last time, we're working on that, updating the fire resistant plant guide. It's an OSU extension publication. And at this point, I'm looking for photos. I thought maybe I had a whole bunch of photos showing examples of homes that could use a lot more work around them, and then examples of homes that are really great, in terms of being fire safe. So I might need a photo release if anyone were to offer up their photos, but that would be great if anyone could send them my way. So yep, that's about it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ariel. And yeah, just for everybody else too, don't feel like you're hijacking it at all. That's the purpose of the roundtable, is try to make some of those connections across different groups and organizations. So that's what the sharing is meant for. We will move on to Dean Richardson. Anything new in the Upper Deschutes area? And you are still on mute. Dean, you're still on mute.
Good morning.
There we go.
Yes, Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. This year was a pretty tragic wildfire year. I think we were fortunate here in Central Oregon that we weren't affected more, but it did get a lot of people's attention. And so in the Upper Deschutes River communities, we had quite a bit of participation for Fire Free, and the county helped us a lot. In particular, one of our communities, DRH6, which Boone mentioned, has really made a lot of progress last year and this year. Our grants program really picked up. We had 106 applications approved for defensible space, and most of them were for our incentive program, where we pay the first $500 towards contractors helping property owners create defensible space. So that's ongoing, and coupled with the sweat equity of homeowners and help from the county and all the other resources, we're making some progress on the ground. As far as programs this year, one of the things that I think gets left out of the defensible space when people are thinking about it is how to make the structures more ember-proof. And a lot of times it can be small things that can be done, but even if you create good defensible space around your property, we all know that ember showers can still threaten the structures, and then you can get structure-to-structure ignition. So looks like the holidays are going to be a little bit different this year, but there's still a lot to be thankful for. I would just conclude with the hope that we can get back to doing more prescribed fire, please. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dean. Deschutes County 911, I assume that's Chris Perry.
Yep, that's me. I'm here. No updates from 911, but happy holidays to all of you. Thanks.
Great. Georgia Hill, then. Anything from Rigid Eagle Crest?
I have nothing to report today, but I just wanted to wish everyone a very happy holidays also, and Happy New Year, and thanks Boone and Ed for all the great reporting, and everyone else for contributing.
Great, thanks, Georgia. Greg Bryant, anything from Deschutes River Woods?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, what it is with the fire that we had, there was a lot of smoke, and so individuals got together, and we actually have 3 fire squad trucks out here in Deschutes River Woods and they got 250-gallon water tanks full, so that they can be there immediately if there's a fire that in Deschutes River Woods, and then they let that go when the fire truck gets here. But they do the initial if they're available. So, and I thought that, and with that, I'm hoping to be able to talk to them more often to get more Firewise communities here in Deschutes River Woods. Since they're interested for that, I think some of those people will be interested to be Firewise. So that's what I'm hoping. But you sort of have to talk to them individually, and with COVID, it's sort of difficult. But I'll work on it. And happy holidays to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. All right, Jack Hammond from Parks. Welcome, Jack. Anything to share?
Well, hi, thanks. It's my first time at this meeting because we at the Parks are working with Boone, and earlier got help with Ariel and trying to do some assessment. Boone, you've really been there for us. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm away for a moment. I will say that as we try to qualify for Firewise, the one thing for all of us to keep in mind, and certainly we're struggling with this, is the fact that in one of these little developments like we have here next to the OSU Cascades campus, even the name, the parks, is supposed to make us all think of a certain kind of vegetation. And so this place is one giant mow and blow. And on one extreme, and Ariel, I don't want to misrepresent what you said, but I think if it was up to Ariel in a good way, I mean this, most of our houses would have 5 feet of gravel around them. And then beyond that, you'd have grass, and voila, we're there. There are many competing behaviors and attitudes in just this one neighborhood about what a yard should be in an urban area. And it's going to be a huge struggle to expand this beyond just looking at it strictly from fire. And I don't see this as an easy path. I was actually not in favor of being a Firewise community because I don't think this community speaks very often well to each other. We have a really poor management company that makes its money by making sure we don't talk to each other. And so I think it's, as you continue to expand, worth looking at the structures of two things that really are a big barrier to doing the things you want. Number one, management companies who frankly don't know and don't care what you do, most of them. And number two, that giant mow and blow community of people who are so-called landscapers who care even less. They're struggling to survive, especially now. And I just don't know how we're going to get people, a significant number of people in this community, to know or care about the kinds of wonderful information that Boone and Ariel gave us, because way too many of them are content to pay however much they pay every month, or to have people come in and just, I don't want to bother with it, you know, mow it, blow it, I'm fine. So we'll see. You know, I think we're kind of we're going to be an experiment here to see if Firewise can legitimately work in a community like this. So happy holidays to everybody. I love what you do, but I'm just trying to bring it real and let you know that we do have a lot of work ahead of us.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, good comments. I would say in talking to a lot of other communities, yeah, the starting of the conversation is sometimes a challenge for sure, and but everybody has to start somewhere. So thanks for sharing today, and thanks for coming, and welcome back anytime. Jeff, anything new to share from Ben Parks?
Ben Parks staff is working on a small fuel reduction project at Skyline Sports Complex. So we're just cutting some brush and cleaning some trees. I've had some help from part of Oregon on that one. And then later in the year, probably next month or so, we'll get started on a fuel reduction project at Hollandstead Park, and then we'll focus on the property boundary against the other properties.
And before I forget, I did want to just call attention to the chat. Nicole Mardell, who's with Community Development and Sisters, shared something before she signed off. And so I'll let you read it, but they are going through a comprehensive plan process. And if you have interest in wildfire issues with the City of Sisters, she gave a website there, sisters2040.com, with more information. Okay, Jessica, anything to share?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for the updates and for all the hard work this year. I know it's been an interesting year of pivoting and being able to still bring everyone together. I don't have any updates from my end, but thank you and happy holidays, everybody.
All right, Lars from NRCS, anything on your end? Welcome.
All right, microphone, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have a huge update really. Just wanted to mention back in October. I was collaborating with the U.S. Forest Service on a Joint Chiefs proposal, and so that was submitted back in October, and still haven't heard yet, but if that proposal was accepted. But I've had really good feedback from our leadership. They really liked the proposal, and so I've only heard good comments so far, which is exciting. Just haven't heard the official word just yet. And then I don't want to steal Todd's thunder, but I've been working closely with Todd and the SWCD on a success story related to the last Joint Chiefs project that we were doing in the Lapine area. And so you might see that coming out in the next few weeks as well. That's all I have. Thank you. Happy holidays.
All right. Thanks, Lars. Okay. Skipping a few folks that said they didn't have an update. If I skip you inadvertently, we'll have a go back at the end. But Peter Brewer, DEQ.
Oh, let's see. I would just throw out there that all this work we're doing does help reduce air quality impacts that we can have from fires, or just from lots of people doing open burning. As we chip material, we remove it, we recycle it, we reuse it. It's helping wonderfully in our community. But of course, our eyes are always on those bigger pushes like wildfire that can really, as we all know, smoke us out for days on end in very hazardous conditions. So hats off to everybody doing what you're doing. Keep doing it. And yeah, this is of course time for great air quality. So breathe it in as you can when it's not too smoky from wood stoves.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Peter, question from Commissioner DeBone here. I know that the East Base Labs has that air quality index kind of real-time monitoring system around Central Oregon. Any thoughts about that? Is that a good example of the air quality? It's pretty much real time, which is exciting. And I know they just added Black Butte Ranch also to it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, they put a monitor at my house, so if that says anything, it's pretty good. They do a little bit of quality control in the data, so it's not these purple air monitors that it's based on. They can read high. The purple air network tends to read, say, even 50% high, especially in wildfire smoke times or smoky times from wood smoke. But the network, the East Base network, I think it's a great addition to Central Oregon because they go from Lapine all the way up to Crooked River Ranch, right? And out now again to Prineville, and yeah, Black Butte Ranch and so forth. So they're really doing a nice density and giving I think Central Oregon's a great network to be able to see what's going on with air quality, and in places like Smith Rock too, if you want to go recreate. So yeah, the quality is pretty good. And they're working on a really robust system. I think they want to add like 10 more sites here pretty soon too. So good question. Thanks.
Great. Well, I've got one at my house too, because I just happen to know those guys, and they called one day and said, "Can we put one out there?" But I mean, it's a great little website, and it's just a community effort. And I was just wondering if you're kind of supportive of that, or you think it is a disruptive.
No, I think I'm supportive of it. We're going to see a lot more citizen monitoring, a lot more little networks popping up. And I think the more data, as long as people understand the quality of the data, I know that's always a challenge for most people, but if they understand the quality a little bit more, it's not the fully QA/QC, EPA approved sites that DEQ runs, but they cost a lot more. So we can't have a dozen of them around the community. And so this really fills in that niche and gives us great information, what's going on with air quality. And yeah, Chuck and folks behind the network, they're doing more and more at being able to mine data, use the website a little differently as we kind of push how you can use that data even more so. You're looking back in time, and yeah, it's a good system. I'm very thankful it's here.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Peter. Bob Pulley, Mountain High.
Thank you, Ed. Not much to report, but I am excited that we got our Firewise signs from Firewise USA to put at the entrances to Mountain High subdivision so that first responders will know that we've taken the effort to do defensible space. As Commissioner DeBone pointed out, there are a lot of new people coming into our county, a lot of people moving out of cities to get out of the density, and we're seeing that here in Mountain High. And just like to point out that we do have a very effective welcoming committee at Mountain High, and they always give out our Firewise brochures and things to new people, because a lot of these new residents from the Seattle area and the Bay Area and Southern California have no idea what's going on with wildfires. So it's very good to have that. One thing I'm working on with Boone in the coming months is to go through the contractor list that's in the Project Wildfire resource guide, and I'm going to be contacting those contractors to make sure that their information is still accurate in that guide so that everybody's up to date for 2021. And a great presentation, Boone, and happy holidays, everybody.
Great, thanks, Bob. Todd Peplin with Deschutes Soil and Water Conservation District.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you have a good holiday. Say, just like Lars was discussing is, and Ariel, this would be really good. The success story is down south, doing a private landowner down there that shows what can be done when they do some defensible space and fire prevention work. We actually got drone footage, which is actually really nice, and we'll be putting that on the NRCS webpage here shortly. It's in its final stages right now. We just got the editing on the drone. It just shows dense stand as it comes into, prior to coming into the landowner's property there. And then you see a nice assortment of different thinning techniques, and it really tells a story really nice, and it's done really well. So we'll keep you posted on that and throw that email out in link when that comes out, hopefully shortly within the next couple of weeks. And as also like Lars was discussing about the Joint Chiefs, the Deschutes SWCD is currently working with NRCS trying to strategize on an outreach effort and for forest folks, just to get them interested and also get them more well aware of what's happening here in Deschutes County in the forested areas. And as for that, I do believe that is about all I have.
Great, thanks, Todd. Yeah, we'll look for that success story and make sure to share that widely. And then Commissioner DeBone, anything else to share?
Just kind of reinforcing the same message. You know, this is a long history in Deschutes County. Project Wildfire has been a successful community outreach effort for many, many years. It's a commitment by the county. So this has been an awkward year putting us on our heels, but this is the time to prepare for many years of success and just spreading the message, reminding people what defensible space looks like, what a little bit of spring and fall cleanup looks like. So just a positive message. Thanks to everybody for joining us, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And then I'll just pause if I missed anybody or anybody had something else they wanted to follow up on. But just would again draw your attention to the chat. We brought this up multiple times, but the time is coming to a close. So I just want to remind you one more time that the Community Development Department is collecting your opinions through a survey on potential wildfire regulations that might be considered by the county in the coming year. Put a couple links up there. And we just ask that if you've participated but know somebody that might be unaware of it, feel free to share either or both of those links. Just want to be sure we get good participation in the public input portion of this. So,
Ed, when does that close?
I believe that survey is going to be closed out on December 22nd.
Great, thank you.
So we'll be probably circling back with you next year to share any results we might have from that survey. With that, I don't see anybody else with a hand raised or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and close our meeting. Just a reminder, if you do want to participate in a smaller group for a couple hours with us to provide us input on 2021 priorities, let Boone or I know. Otherwise, we will see you back here in January.